1, 2, 3, 4.
In the sleeping hills of western New York, where the winters can be brutal and the roads can be treacherous, live some of the most remarkable people in the world. Each week, we'll showcase one of these incredible characters, right here on Outstanding Artists and Human Beings of Alleghany County. Today we will be meeting Tom Potts of Belmont, New York. He is a dentist, a nut grower, and an experimental scientist. He is a PhD in microbiology and is a part-time lounge bar singer and dancer.
Hold me close and hold me fast, the magic spell you cast. This is La Vie en Rose. When you kiss me, heaven sighs, and though I close my eyes, I see La Vie en Rose. When you press me to your heart, I'm in a world apart, a world where roses bloom. And when you speak, angels, they sing from above. Everyday words seem to turn into love songs. Give your heart and soul to me, and life will always be La Vie en Rose.
Tom, wake up. Wake up. Hi.
Oh.
I'm Autumn. I'm here for your interview.
Oh, am I still dreaming? You changed your clothes.
Oh,
And where are the musicians?
musicians? I don't know. We're just here for an interview.
Oh, the interview. I forgot all about that interview.
I'm sorry to wake you. You look so happy and
I was
asleep.
very happy.
Yeah.
I was very happy.
Well, do you mind if we start right here?
No, that'd be great.
Yeah?
Let's do
Okay.
it right here. Jeez. Yeah, I'm sorry. I forgot all about the interview.
No worries.
I was in La La Land.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seemed like a happy la la land. So this is your dental practice.
Yes, it is. It is.
Cool.
I've been
I
here
like
now.
your peach Art Deco chair. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been here now for 25 years.
25
In
years.
Belmont, yeah.
Cool.
Seeing patients.
Amazing.
Yeah, I started out my dental career at St. Louis University. I graduated there in 1969 and went to University of Rochester in a graduate program to study microbiology, and I did a lot of work there in viral genetics.
Okay.
And graduated from there in 1974. Took a teaching position at the University of Florida. I decided to take a fellowship at the University of Toronto at the Princess Margaret Hospital in Toronto. And I studied cancer viruses for a couple of years. I couldn't really afford to live in Toronto with my family. It just got so expensive that I decided to move to Buffalo, and I set up a private practice in Buffalo. And I was there from 77 to about 1980. And at that time, I took a full-time position at the University of Buffalo.
Okay, what were you doing there?
There I was teaching dental students in the clinic, and I was doing research on oral microorganisms that cause disease, that cause gum disease, that cause endodontic disease, and those kinds of things, mostly with bacteria. And we did a lot of DNA hybridization kind of work. So that was interesting, but after I got my tenure and been there for 7 years, I was allowed to have a sabbatical. And with that sabbatical, I was able to go to Mexico. I got a position at the Universidad Autónoma de Puebla. That's the dental school in the city of Puebla, Mexico. And I was there. I learned Spanish, got to meet a lot of wonderful people, had a great time. But as that was coming to an end, as that sabbatical was ending, I kept getting phone calls from a lady in southern Mexico, the name of Christine Eber. She was an anthropologist working in southern Mexico. She was in Chiapas. She kept calling me and calling me. And
how did she find you?
Well, she knew people at the University of Buffalo. She was from the University of Buffalo too. She knew people at the University of Buffalo that knew me, but I didn't know her. But I would talk to her and she'd say, "Oh, Tom, you got to come down to Mexico and help all these poor people." It's an empty dental clinic here. The government had built the dental clinic in better times, but at that point they didn't have the money to staff the clinic, so it was empty in the village, sitting there. And she said, "You got to come down." I said, "No, how's that going to help?" I was thinking to myself, how's that going to help my career? I was still under the delusion that people have careers and you know, it's that whole thing where they get you to sacrifice your life so that you can climb some career ladder, and you never really do what you want to do, you know. But I was still in that mindset. But eventually Christine kept calling me and calling me. Finally I was avoiding the phone. I wouldn't answer the phone. It would ring and ring and ring. I knew it was her. But finally one day I picked it up and I said, "Okay, Christine, I'll come down, but only for 2 weeks." And it was such a wonderful experience being there. The people were so welcoming and helpful, and I did so much. I relieved so much pain and suffering, because people were lined up just to get infections treated, to get teeth extracted, to get their gums treated, or whatever. In one day, you could just make an amazing difference, amazing impact in terms of just relieving suffering. Now that first year, we didn't do any fillings or anything. All we did was extract teeth and treat infections, but all day long. But right after that, we again started to, the next year, I've gone back every year since 1987.
Wow.
The next year.
How many years now total?
31 years
31
now.
years.
31 years. I'm back every year. And the next year, 1988, we went back again, but for only a month, 2 weeks in the fall, 2 weeks in the early spring. But we decided that we would do one filling every day, just so because people didn't even know about getting fillings and saving teeth. But then I came back to Buffalo, I went back into private practice, and it kept coming down here every year, of course, in the fall and in the early spring. But in 1993, I decided I wanted to leave Buffalo, and I bought this dental practice here in Belmont and moved to Belmont. So why don't we move into the other room? It's a little bit more comfortable there. There's a nice fire.
Oh, that
and
sounds
we could
great.
finish the interview in there. If that's okay.
Excellent.
Good.
Lead the way.
Okay.
Before we continue the conversation with Tom, we'd like to share a few scenes of the village and dental clinic in Chenaló, Mexico, along with a few words from Tom's local collaborators.
Ese pueblito querido, nunca lo voy a olvidar, aunque me vaya muy lejos.
Cuando tú llegaste, Tomás, en 1987, pues ya no había odontólogo, ya no había dentista.
Hay servicios desde hace muchos años aquí en Chenaló, pero un servicio médico general para medicina general, pero nunca había un servicio odontológico como se está haciendo desde hace aproximadamente 14 o 15 años, desde que el doctor Tomás llegó a este pueblo. Tengo entendido que él llegó por conducto del Instituto Nacional Indigenista de San Cristóbal de las Casas.
Es un beneficio colectivo en la cual nos favorece no solamente de aquí del municipio de Chenaló, sino en sus parajes, en las comunidades, porque esta clínica es una clínica que está bastante equipadita, está altamente equipado. Entonces, pues, es muy interesante que siga funcionando. Y con el comité odontológico que tenemos acá en Chenaló, está haciendo la función difundir ahora que van a estar ustedes acá durante tres semanas. Entonces, pues prácticamente esto viene a apoyar mucho a las gentes que tienen poco recurso.
The services here are for everybody. We service anybody that comes to the door. We take care of lots of campesinos, native Indian Tzotzil speakers. We have sometimes we have people here who are translators.
Comenzamos aquí.
We extend the services to people who are just Spanish speakers. We have treated people from the Army. We have treated people from the state police. We treat their wives. We treat campesinos. And in that way, we get respect from all sectors of the community. We establish ourselves as helpful to everyone, and it allows us to exist here politically. So Autumn, I just wanted to show you this photo from the first time I ever went to Chiapas.
Oh, wow.
It shows me working on a patient using the only instrument they had in the clinic to extract a tooth, which was basically like a screwdriver. And here you see my assistant is holding a flashlight so I can see something. And the patient has this funnel to spit into.
Wow.
So you can see the
funnel is like an oil funnel
yes,
for a car, right?
Exactly. So this is just like
it's really bare bones.
The most bare bones clinic I've ever seen. And we've, ever since that first visit, we've been steadily improving the clinic with bringing down materials and equipment. We've had help from the Sisters of St. Francis in Niagara Falls, and they've shipped a whole bunch of dental equipment down for us, and we fixed the clinic up. Really made it nice since this time. But when I was doing this work, people were lined up to get in the clinic.
I'm sure.
And we would see over 25 patients a day. It was quite moving. People were very, very appreciative, and while we didn't charge them anything for the treatment, they would still bring us things like they bring us, fruit or bananas or mangoes or something to help, so that they could show some appreciation for the treatment that was done.
Were there any major obstacles or problems that arose as you were working there?
Yeah, well, one of the obstacles is just the language, because most of the people, especially the women, do not speak Spanish. They only speak the Mayan language, Tzotzil.
Oh, wow.
So I had to get usually I would have an assistant who would also translate into Spanish so that we could communicate and get things done that way. The other big problem that we had started in 1994 when the Zapatista revolution occurred there. It was a big uprising. Many lands were taken over. The clinic that we were in was then transferred to the mayor's office. The federal government no longer controlled it. And there was a lot of conflict going on all the period from 1994 till 1997.
It was dangerous.
It was dangerous, especially toward the later period. Around 1997, a lot of houses were being burned down. The clinic in 97 was taken over by the state police, and they erected a tower, a machine gun tower, out in front of the clinic. They wouldn't let us in, and they said, we're storing all our ordnance, our ammunition and our guns and everything in the clinic, and we can't let you in, you can't use the clinic. So we kept running around the village anyway, trying to find another room or where we could at least do some extractions, but we couldn't arrange it. So I finally gave up, and I left there about December 21st. And the day I was leaving, many houses were being burned down and refugees were coming into the village from the outlying areas. They either were forced out of their houses or their houses were burned down. After that, the army came in and took control of everything, and after that there was no more conflict to speak of, because the army was there and they were everywhere. So after that, things slowly got better and better, and we improved the clinic, but we no longer had a way of of taking care of the clinic because it was out of the control of the federal government. So we established
When you say taking care of the clinic, what do you mean?
well, people to maintain the well, I'm not there. Somebody's got to take care of the roof and the
Right.
plumbing and all the other things. And they also at sometimes would hire another dentist to take my place when I was not there. So we needed a group that would do that, and we did finally get a group of people together. We established a committee after '97 to help us take care of the clinic and to communicate with the political authorities and all those things. And this is that committee. And you can see this group of people. I'm here in the picture. And the guy standing next to me, Manuel, he's the president of the dental committee, the Free Dental Committee in Chenaló. And he also was an ex-mayor of Chenaló. So he's politically connected.
And Chenaló is the town.
Chenaló is the village I go
village
to.
You were working
This gentleman here on the other side of me is a dentist, and he has helped me throughout 31 years to repair the dental equipment and do everything I needed to do there. So all these people work together and they maintain the clinic. This woman here is the dental assistant that works with me even now. So
What's her name?
her name is Aurea
beautiful name.
Lopez Vasquez. And she's a wonderful lady. She also translates for me from the Mayan language into Spanish. So she's a really wonderful person, and I still go down there. I'm retired, so I'm not doing dentistry at this point, but I do a lot of fluoride varnish. I put fluoride varnish on grade school kids' teeth.
Okay.
And that's what this last photo here shows. Shows a group of kids that we had just treated with fluoride varnish, and we were getting ready for Christmas, and we wanted to do some
Little cuties.
yeah, and all these kids had just gotten fluoride varnish put on their teeth, and it was getting to be Christmas, and I wanted to send something back to people who donate to the clinic. So we did this little grouping and took some photos, and you can see all those little kids are bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and really they're fun to treat actually, and it's a good first experience going to the dentist, getting your fluoride varnish rather than getting a tooth extracted or some getting an injection or something scary or painful. So that's the latest thing that we're doing, and we're also trying to expand this program to other grade schools. So hopefully that will happen this next year. We're also supporting a dental student in the university there in Chiapas, and we have granted him a scholarship. When he completes it, he has promised to work for us 1 day a week for a year. So that's going to keep the clinic going, and we're hopeful that in the future he will, of course, remain connected to us and keep working with us in the future. He's also an indigenous person. He speaks the Mayan language, and that would be very, very helpful in that setting.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes it is a difficult thing for me. The person doesn't speak, they don't speak Spanish, and my Spanish isn't perfect, so sometimes there are communication problems.
I mean,
too.
it's hard to communicate sometimes with your dentist in
English, in the same language. Right?
Yeah. I'm like, no, not there, little,
Yes.
So.
Yeah. So do you have any other questions?
No, you're doing really incredible work. That's
Well, I should also mention that all of this work is supported by the Latin American Solidarity Committee in Buffalo, New York. They make the money available to buy all the supplies, to pay the assistant, pay the other dentists that we have there sometimes. And so it's really been a labor of love with all of those people. The Latin American Solidarity Committee is in the Western New York Peace Center. All those folks have been amazingly helpful for the last 31 years.
That's incredible.
So it's pretty amazing.
Are you going back this year?
Yes, I'm going back tomorrow.
Tomorrow? After we're done shooting?
Yes.
Oh man, wow. That's awesome. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Oh, thank you, Autumn, for the wonderful interview.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Tom, not only are you a caring and worldly dentist, but I hear that you are working to develop sustainable nut trees for Allegheny County and the rest of New York State.
Yes, I am. I'm working with hazelnuts, and we're developing cold-hardy, disease-resistant hazelnuts.
Wow.
Can I show you some in the other room?
Yeah, I would love to
Okay,
see.
well, let's go take a look.
Busy guy.
Yeah. Each one of these batches of nuts represents a new tree that has come into production this year. It's just started producing hazelnuts, and we're evaluating the quality of the nuts. That is, do they taste good raw? Do they taste good when they're roasted?
Okay.
And what do they look like? How much kernel is there in there? How thick is the shell? Here's an example of a nut. You can see it has a nice smooth surface. That's a desirable characteristic. It has a pretty shell,
Yep.
a very thin
That's a nice
shell.
color.
And so that is a good candidate for being a nut that we could produce here. The tree is also very productive, which is what you absolutely have to have if you're going to grow things commercially. It has to be productive. This tree is productive. We already tested it for cold hardiness, and we've tested it for disease resistance.
Okay.
So we know this tree is possibly a possible good one for Allegheny County and New York State.
And how do you go about reproducing a tree that is successful?
Well, once we know a tree is successful, there are sprouts that come up at the base of the tree called suckers. And we put a little wire around the sucker at the base, put some rooting compound on it, and it will start out new roots. And then a year later, we cut it off, and we've got copies of that tree. So we can just make multiple copies of trees.
And it's an exact copy of that tree?
It's an exact copy.
So
It's a
the form
clone.
of the tree will be the
It's
exact
a clone.
same?
The form and the nuts and everything will be exactly the same. It's a clone.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and so all of these are different crosses. Each one is listed in here as to what the parents were. So this Lisa was the pollen parent, and this other tree had the flower on it. So the pollen from Lisa fertilized the flower on the other tree, and it resulted in a seedling that gave us these nuts.
Amazing.
So it's a 6-year process.
And this Lisa tree is from where?
That Lisa tree is from Michigan. The other tree, Lafayette number 14, is north of Montreal. And you can see September 1st, its nuts were ripe on September 1st. That's very early, and that's a very desirable characteristic.
And how do you get the trees here? So
Well,
they're from different locations?
yes, these were all purchased long ago from nurseries.
Okay.
Yeah. And some of them are also from various experimental orchards at Rutgers University
Oh.
and at Oregon State University. Both of those have collections of hazelnut cultivars. Each unique tree is called a cultivar. So
Cool.
that's the word.
And so this you think is the most successful one?
I think that's one of the most successful ones. Another one is this one right here. This one is it's not as pretty a nut, but the tree is extremely productive and disease resistant, and we're hoping that one might be successful too. But we have to plant multiple trees and get them out and see if they are commercially successful or not. It's still too early to be sure, but it's early enough to be hopeful. And as you can see, there's a large number of different crosses here from different parents, all of which have been, at this point, each one of these has been proven to be disease resistant and cold hardy.
That's really neat.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see the shell differences and the different textures and
there's quite a bit of difference
coloring,
actually.
rich caramel color and
Yeah,
a nice
well, this one has a nice, like a stripe on it. Very pretty nut, nice and round.
Beautiful.
Others are not so pretty, but it's very hopeful, I think, that we're going to succeed in coming up with a commercial cultivar. That's the hope. Maybe.
Yeah, I hope you do.
Yeah.
That'd be really exciting. Awesome. This is so cool.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I'd love to try one.
You love to try
Yeah.
one? Sure. Let's get you one right here from the most hopeful cultivar. And there you go.
Thank you. It's really good.
It's pretty good flavor. Don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like it. That's awesome.
Thing we have to do though is I haven't actually roasted that yet, so we have to roast it and see what it tastes like roasted.
Very cool.
Super. So in '94, we planted 200 trees. 100 were grafted trees, which means they're clones of other well-known trees, and 100 were seedlings, which are genetically highly variable, right? Planted 200 trees in 1994. And because we were going to pick the best ones and start a commercial hazelnut grove. We're going to pick the best trees. But what happened was the trees started dying. The grafted ones died of the cold. And anything that didn't die of the cold died of this eastern filbert blight, right?
Yeah.
This is the only tree of that 200 which survives.
Wow.
This is Lisa, tree from Michigan. And that's, so that tree...
Where did the name Lisa come from?
He named it after his daughter.
Oh, okay.
No, his granddaughter, I'm sorry, his granddaughter.
Nice.
What kind of tree is this?
Well, all of these are hazelnut trees. These are all 3 years old.
Okay.
They originated from a cross. We took pollen from the tree bee, and we put that pollen on flowers on this tree, Layne, number 14. In the fall, we got nuts off that branch.
Oh, wow.
Planted those out, and then the next spring they grew up, and 3 years later, we have these trees. These trees have excellent parents. Layne is from Quebec, so it's super cold hardy and extremely productive. And this bee tree is bred by me, and it has a wonderful, tasty, delicious nut. So we're trying to get, and the bee tree is completely resistant to the filbert blight. So we're trying to get that, and the Layne is super productive. So we want to get the two qualities together.
And a sustainable tree for
That's
this
right,
area.
for this area, hopefully.
Amazing. And then what is this?
This is a branch that we take off a tree that has the eastern filbert blight that kills the hazels. And each one of these little holes here, each one of these little, they're called parathecia. They have millions of spores in them. So the spores go all over the tree and get on the
Just by
new
hanging
buds.
here?
Just by hanging here. When the rains hit it, the rains release the spores, cause the spores to get into the air and infects the tree. And every tree gets infected at least 3 years in a row to make sure if we try to kill them, in other words.
So it's like us getting a vaccine.
Yeah, well, no,
No.
it's not a vaccine. It's to try and kill the tree with the fungus, so that any tree that's sensitive is killed and gone. And if you look down the row here, here's a tree. Right now, it's got the spores on it last year, and now it's got all these new.
So this guy didn't make it.
He didn't make it, he got sick, so he's gone, right? We don't want to deal with that tree anymore. And that's the way we...
Tree Darwinism.
Yeah, it's accelerated Darwin.
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
exactly,
wow.
exactly.
Okay.
That's the idea.
Wild. That's incredible.
So we have multiple crosses, right? This is one cross, and there's like 30 trees there. You go over there's another cross, and there's more trees, and it's just, there's hundreds of trees.
And these are hazelnuts,
These are
straight
all
down this
hazels.
line. And how long have you been working with hazelnuts?
Well, we started in 1994, so that makes 24 years we've been working on it, and killing trees with blight and watching them die due to severe
Is
cold.
that painful?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get attached to these
Yeah.
trees, and especially when you have one you think is going to be very useful, and then it gets eastern filbert blight and dies. So we watch hundreds of trees die, and then we replace those with other trees, and then we started breeding our own trees because nothing else seemed to work.
Wow. What got you into breeding trees?
Well, initially I was interested in trying to do some permaculture, and I thought we would start growing chestnut trees like this tree here. And then I grew chestnuts, and I gave them to people and had them try them, and people would say, oh, it kind of tastes like a potato, or it's kind of mealy. They didn't like chestnuts. So then I said, well, I got to switch to some other tree. And everybody likes hazelnuts, and everybody
yeah.
likes Nutella.
Yeah.
And there's a big demand for hazelnuts. There is a market that already exists.
What geographical region is the hazelnut most grown, or
Well, 70% of the world's hazelnuts are grown in Turkey along the Black
Turkey.
Sea.
Okay.
In the United States, they're all grown in Oregon, in western Oregon, where it's fairly wet and mild climate. So
Right.
it's not just like zone 6.
yeah?
We're zone 4.
Okay.
So there's a lot of difference there. These Oregon trees, this is an Oregon tree here called Yamhill. They do fine in Oregon, but they don't do fine here. They get sick and they're not very happy. They don't produce like they do in Oregon either.
Yeah. Okay. So 24 years later, how do you feel like you're doing?
Well, we've made a lot of progress, I can say that, because initially we only had this one tree that was resistant to eastern filbert blight. And we bred it with a lot of other trees. Now at least half the trees that are here are completely resistant to this blight, and all of them are cold hardy. So
That's
we've made a lot of progress,
Yeah.
but we are evaluating the newer producing trees that just came into production this year. That's what you saw in the house. And those, if the nuts are high enough quality, we will then go and start making copies of those trees. And you can see, I can show you out here where we make copies of trees and how we do it.
Yeah, I would
You
love
wanna
to see
do
that.
that?
Yeah, of
Sure.
course. Let's go.
Yeah.
So you want to reproduce this tree?
Yes, we want to make copies of this tree. We make copies of it, then this is called a cultivar, and these suckers coming up around the bottom here will turn into trees that are exactly the same genetics as this.
Wow.
What we do is we take these suckers, that's these little sprouts coming up, and we tie a wire around the base, tightly around the base, that prevents nutrients from flowing up, and the tree responds by trying to form roots, and we encourage that by painting a rooting hormone on the bottom 2 inches. Then we cover it up, all that bottom 2 inches where we put the rooting hormone, we cover it up with peat moss, and in 4 weeks you start to see roots growing out. And by next year you'll be able to cut it off where we put the wire on and plant out a new tree that is exactly the same genetics as this and give you exactly the same nuts. And you'll have your cultivar.
Wow.
So this one
and where
has.
do you get the rooting hormone from?
I buy it from a chemical supply company, and
Okay.
I mix it up and make my own rooting solution.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is each hormone totally unique to each kind of tree?
Well,
Or
most
just-
hormones, it's indole-butyric acid is the main one that people use on almost all trees to get them to root, or even in your house if you're trying to root your little begonia or something.
Yeah.
Most of those rooting solutions have indole-butyric acid in them.
Okay.
It's pretty. It's a plant hormone that causes roots to form.
That's neat.
So hopefully we'll get a bunch of these planted out and start getting some production. That's the idea.
Yeah.
We want to get a grove established that is productive, that we can show farmers. Ultimately, you have to be able to show farmers
That it's possible.
that it's possible and that there's real production. About 10 years ago, a farmer told me, he said, well, I planted some of those hazelnuts down by the barn, and they never produced much of anything. It was more than 10 years, probably 15 years ago.
Okay.
And I said, well, hazelnuts are the wave of the future. It's a great tree. He said, well, you show me 1,000 pounds of hazelnuts, and I'll start growing
talk.
hazelnuts.
Yeah.
I've been trying to grow 1,000 pounds of hazelnuts ever since, and I have not yet succeeded, but I think we're getting close.
What's the how much have you grown? What's the
Oh, I'd say we get
the
about
highest?
100 pounds a
100
year,
pounds.
100 pounds.
All
Like,
right.
So we're just
yeah?
like this tree this year. Well, we got one of those little boxes full, but that's its first year of production, so that doesn't mean it won't be a good tree. I think this has real potential.
Cool. I actually have a solution. Have you heard of the hazelnut dance?
The hazel? No, I haven't.
Yeah, you got to do the hazelnut dance. I think right around this time of year
Huh.
to get it through the winter. So it goes a little. No, you got to
Oh, you gotta
your
get
hand-
this.
And then you have to spin around to give the you know, the hazelnut
Get the
energy
aura,
to all
the aura.
to all the hazelnuts. Exactly. And then it ends with like a little. Yeah.
Very good.
So I think you might get 300 pounds.
300 pounds.
Actually, just
We
from,
keep
you know,
trying.
it just takes a little dance.
The other
little
thing
dance.
is the animals, the blue jays and the squirrels and the raccoons, they get at least half the crop. It's just a battle.
Yeah.
It's just a continuous battle with the
Yeah.
critters.
Oh, I'm sure. In your 24 years of doing this, have you created any unique processes that have really helped develop some of these trees here in this region?
Well, yes, we've taken trees from all over the United States, from Oregon State. We've taken trees from Rutgers University. We've taken trees from nut growers in Minnesota and bred them with each other, trying to build up the resistance to eastern filbert blight and
Yep.
cold resistance, using trees even from Quebec and all over the United States, actually all over the world. A lot of the stuff that came from Rutgers University, and I have trees here, are from Russia and Ukraine.
Whoa,
So we have trees here from Russia, Ukraine, and all over the world.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
How are they doing?
Well, here's one right here. This
Oh.
is from a cross between a tree from Ithaca, New York,
Okay.
and a tree from China called Estrella number 1, which was developed in, it was originally from China, but it was developed in Michigan. And those two trees are crossed and produced this tree, which is totally resistant to eastern filbert blight and very
Yeah, it
productive.
looks like it's going to be really productive.
Very productive. So it's very hopeful. Also, it's a very tasty. The thing is, you got to taste them and
Yeah, of course.
roast them and
Yeah.
see what they're like. And this one's excellent. It's
Do you
just
have
excellent.
roasting parties here?
I haven't yet, but
You should.
we should. We will
Yeah.
soon.
For sure, this Christmas. And you do everything here.
Well, I do everything except at planting time. I have a friend that comes here,
Okay.
Sam Miller, and he spends a couple of days here, and all we do is dig holes in the ground and plant hazelnut trees, or we plant the nuts that are going to sprout for that year. And he comes out and spends a couple of days. Other than that, I do everything.
How many trees in total would you say you have on this plot of land?
Well, in this 3 acres right here, we have about 250 hazelnuts.
Oh, wow.
And we have about 30 chestnut trees that
Okay.
but we're trying to propagate some chestnut trees too, but they're of less interest because there's a hard commercial sell for chestnuts.
And do the trees come to see you for all their dental needs?
They do. I drill and fill them.
Okay. Yeah, nice. Nice. Some useful crossover skills. Yeah.
No, but I do use my dental skills, especially in grafting. When I'm grafting
Right.
a tree, you have to do very fine handwork and cut the pieces very, very accurately, and the dental skills come in useful.
Yeah.
But you can't really, there's no way to use a high-speed hand piece or any of that.
Right. Thank you so much for giving us the tour today. This is a really beautiful nut grove, and I wish you all the luck.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
hope we get to 1,000 pounds really soon. Yeah.
Yes.
Amazing. Tom, thank you so much for welcoming us into your home and showing us your workplace. You are doing some really incredible things with your life, and I'm so grateful for that.
Well, thank you for the wonderful interview. I really enjoyed speaking about all these events in my life.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And it's so exciting to have such an interesting person here in Allegheny County. There's
Yes.
so many wonderful people out there in the woodworks.
Okay.
And thank you for tuning in to Outstanding Artists and Human Beings of Allegheny County. We look forward to seeing you next time.
He's a dentist, the best darn dentist in town. He's a nut grower, grows the best nuts around. Ooh!
Walnuts, hazelnuts, butternuts, chestnuts.
Can you believe all that? He's got lots and lots. He's Dr. Potts. Do you know what he's got? The best nuts. Dr.
chestnuts, hazelnuts, butternuts.
Butternuts? What the heck? If you got a nut in your teeth, that's your seats. Dr. Potts, he does lots and lots. He's a dentist. Kind of the best dentist around. The best dentist in town. And he's got a plot where he grows his nuts. He does a lot.
Hazelnuts, chestnuts, walnuts, butternuts.